Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us. We got another episode of the Kiss Album Focus. Today is Rock and Roll Over. I am Ray.
Brian, thanks for joining us, and this is going to be a good one. I love Rock and Roll Over.
Rock and Roll Over is a great album. I love this album.
Me too. Good stuff.
So coming off the heels of Destroyer, while Kiss continues to get more and more success, at the same time, some of their hardcore fans didn't really dig some of the stylistic changes on Destroyer. So Kiss kind of retreats back and gets with Eddie Kramer again to record a new album that's more straight ahead rock and roll.
Yep.
And what we get out of this is Rock and Roll Over.
So, Rock and Roll Over is, it's like, it's more in line with their first three albums, I think, as far as just straightforward rockin', tunes. They didn't try to get too complex with it. Most of the songs are like between 2.5 and 4 minutes. It's much more straightforward, I think, than what they tried to do with Destroyer, for better and worse.
Yeah. No symphonies, no pianos, no calliopes. It's just guitars, drums, bass, vocals. But I must say, if you listen to some of these tracks, while we're quick to say they kind of retreat back into what they were doing before on the first three albums, stylistically, there are some different choices that they made for this album.
Yeah.
While we talked about acoustic guitars being put behind some of the electrics on Dress to Kill, we're going to have a very acoustic song appear on this album.
Yeah, played on a 12-string, no less.
Yes. So we're going to start right off. So this is an album that, again, Kiss they are very successful with. They chart pretty well with this one. And this one, the US Billboard 200, it peaks at 11, number 9 in Sweden, number 7 in Canada. They got 2 major singles in here. It's Hard Luck Woman, which ends up peaking at 15 on the US and Canadian charts. And Calling Dr. Love peaked on the Billboard Pop Singles chart at 16. The Canadian singles chart, it got to number 2, which I thought was kind of odd.
Yeah, that is kind of odd, but also kind of impressive for a song like Dr. Love.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when you start looking at the statistics. I'm always surprised just when you think you know everything that there is to know about the band. And this is a band that has published lots. There have been tons and tons of books about Kiss and their career. I was surprised to find that Calling Dr. Love peaked in Canada at number 2.
Yeah, that is a bit surprising. To be honest, I didn't even know that. That is pretty surprising.
Well, these are the interesting facts that we bring you on our Kiss Album Focus, people. So this album starts out great. Another one of those very kind of reminiscent to Rock Bottom. We got I Want You. Tell us about I Want You.
It's again, I feel like I say this every episode, but again, another Kiss album that starts with one of the best songs on the album. That starts with a killer track. I Want You is awesome. It's a killer Paul song. It's got this great juxtaposition between this, sort of very kind of pared back melodic sort of intro slash verse that sort of happens into this really like hard hitting chorus that's just really like harder and rockier and just a very, very cool opening track. Very dynamic track, I think.
Yeah. Great song. Really good Paul song that sticks around in the sets for a few years and kind of disappears through the back half of the 70s and pretty much through the 80s. Pops back up in 1990, and it's a real crowd pleaser. This is another one because there's a dynamic back and forth with the audience that works great with this track. Next one is Take Me.
I think, honestly, I'm going to go on record and say that I think Take Me is one of the best hidden gem Kiss songs ever. I absolutely adore Take Me. I think this song is awesome. Like, I I can't comprehend quite why it's not on more Kiss fans like, greatest hidden gems or greatest or it's kind of an overlooked song. I mean, it's not a song that made the rounds in their live sets. It's not, a song that gets passed around, I think, a lot in conversations with Kiss fans and stuff. But I think Take Me is a really cool, rocking, straight up Kiss song. And honestly, a contender for my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's played a little bit live during this era and quickly disappears again. Yeah, it's definitely overlooked. And it's another one of those things where, this already is the second album Kiss has recorded in 1976.
Yeah.
Always running short on material. So you end up doing a bunch of writing on the spot. So that's how you get simplistic lyrics like, put your hand in my pocket and grab onto my rocket.
Yeah, there's no room for subtext there.
No, it's got cheese, but to me, it's the right kind of cheese. I mean, it's just ballsy rock and roll. That's all it is.
It is. It's straight up, no frills, rock and roll lyrics. And I mean, yeah, right. Like it's, the lyrics are a little cheesy and a little hammy, but at the same time, it's just like the vibe and the rock of that song is just gets me every time. Yeah. Every time I put that song on, I love it from start to finish.
I love a great lyric. I'm a huge fan. One I think is the best songwriter, probably the best American songwriting pair is Don Henley and Glenn Frey. Lyrically, I think they're absolutely amazing. But Kiss was never meant to write lyrics like Don Henley and Glenn Frey. It's literally 3-chord party rock. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Take Me is a great example. I agree with you. It is an awesome song and is another one of those that's overlooked. And there's a few songs on this album that is always overlooked.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Next, we have one of the quintessential Gene Simmons tracks in Calling Dr. Love.
Mm-hmm.
Great song.
Yeah, it's a great song. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's one of those songs that, like a number of songs in their catalog, it's like, I've heard it so many times at this point from listening to live sets and bootlegs and stuff like that, that it's not a song that necessarily thrills me when it comes on, not because I don't like it, but just because I've heard it a million times at this point, like Rock and Roll All Night. But that being said, if you take that out of the equation, I think it's a solid Gene Simmons Kiss rocker.
I mean, it's almost like if you're a member of Kiss, and the set lists over the years have showed this, if you're a member of Kiss, if you're Gene Simmons, it's one of the 5 songs you have to play in your set.
Yep.
It kind of comes in and out a few times, but for the most part, you get God of Thunder, you get Rock and Roll All Night, you're going to get Calling Dr. Love as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of his signature songs. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It completely works for his, persona, his stage persona, his, whole demon sort of, profile. And it's a solid song. Like, I think it's a solid song.
Next, we have Ladies' Room. I love Ladies' Room. I think it's another song that just is overlooked. It's a great song from this album. It's a great song from this period.
I agree completely. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I almost like Ladies' Room more than Dr. Love.
I can see that.
I mean, I can see why Dr. Love is more a signature song for him. So like, I get that. It kind of, I don't know, it just has more of a feel for his persona a little bit more, I think. But, Ladies' Room totally works too. And I think it's a really cool song. Yeah. In fact, I think Gene fares a little better on this album than Destroyer. Even though God of Thunder is my favorite all-time Gene Simmons song, but outside of that, I feel like Rock and Roll Over, his tracks maybe fare a little better than he did on Destroyer for me.
Yeah, it's weird. So when you start looking at the members of the band, Gene Simmons gets a lot of the press and the coverage because of some of the theatrics that he does live, dynamic. I mean, he looks evil. He's got all of this. The makeup is great. The costumes and this and that. On a Kiss album, though, he tends to be a little bit weaker in my view anyway.
No,
I
I
think
agree.
Paul's songs tend to be a lot stronger, but
On the
this
whole,
is
I
to me
agree. Yeah.
very much, this might be one of the strongest Gene albums.
Yeah, it's a really strong Gene album. I agree completely. And I agree with what you're saying about when it comes to the studio albums, I tend to skew a little bit more towards the Paul songs. On the whole, I mean, there's plenty of Gene songs I love, but I tend to skew towards the Paul songs more often than not. But this is an album where Gene really pulling his weight on this album.
Yeah,
with the songs.
and more often than not, a lot of the songs that are on this album don't gain a lot of traction as far as the live show is concerned. But that being said, you're falling asleep on this one. This is a great Gene album. It unfortunately that the songs don't, as much albums and material that they're putting out, not all of the songs are making it into a live set. So some of his songs end up getting left behind. Plus, it's hard to do that. What are you going to throw God of Thunder and Rock and Roll All Night out of the set?
Yeah, no, I mean, you can't. I mean, you can, but you can't.
So the next one is another song that I think you and I might disagree on this one.
We might.
It's Baby Driver. This is a Peter Criss song. I love this song. I think it's a great song. This is a track that people tend to fall asleep on, in my opinion. This is also another song that has had some controversy during the recording. Tell me what you think about Baby Driver.
We're going to disagree a little on this one. Look, I don't hate Baby Driver. I don't think that it's awful. Like, I don't refuse to listen to it or anything. Like, I don't have any kind of hatred for it, but it's far from my favorite Peter Criss led song. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's just okay. Like, it's fine. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just kind of okay.
So this song, I think, while it's not as strong as something, say, like Black Diamond, okay, this is a song that actually Peter Criss is bringing into the sessions. This is I believe it's an old Chelsea song. That being said, what's great about the song is it takes all the good things of Peter Criss, that raspy, soulful voice that he has, with great Kiss music behind it. And we'll discuss this later once we start getting into the solo albums. He didn't really like Paul and Gene rewriting the song to make it a great Kiss song, because the way he saw it is the song was already great. And we didn't really need to tool it around. But that being said, I don't think a lot of Peter Criss, if Peter Criss got his way on everything, they wouldn't make for great Kiss songs.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, like I said, this isn't blowing anybody away. I mean, it's a middle of the road, bottom third track that's in the Kiss catalog, but it's a cool song. There's some cool harmonies that go on in here. It's a solid Peter track. I like it a lot. Next, we're going into another sleeper Gene song. This is a song called Love 'Em and Leave 'Em.
Yeah, another, as far as I'm concerned, kind of top tier Gene song on this album. Very much overlooked. I don't know. Did they ever have this as consistently in their live set?
No.
I was gonna say, I don't think I remember ever seeing this as a consistent part of their live set. And I think this song is a sleeper. I think this song is underrated. It's a hidden gem. It's one of the ones that, Kiss fans who are, maybe not as hard, or like casual Kiss fans, really don't know anything about, maybe, and they should, because this song is a great song. It's great Gene tune.
Yeah. In fact, just looking at the numbers here real quick, Brian, Love 'Em and Leave 'Em on this tour was performed once in Savannah, Georgia, and never made it back. It did end up being played on some of the I think one or two of the Kiss cruises when they brought some, because you're with all these hardcore fans, you can dig deep and play some of this stuff.
Sure.
So it ended up coming back. Gene Simmons did a solo tour promoting his box set and ended up getting played live too. Again, this is a hidden gem. Great Gene song here. I
No,
love it.
I agree. Definitely one that people sleep on that they shouldn't. And yeah, what is it? The third song in a row on this album where Gene is just like, top of his game.
Yeah. And Rock and Roll Over, by and large, I kind of feel like it's sandwiched right between two fantastic albums.
Oh yeah.
That in many ways gets overlooked. And
Absolutely.
we're about to look at another song right here in Mr. Speed that is a fantastic Paul song that just is overlooked.
I can't say enough good things about Mr. Speed. Love Mr. Speed. Completely underrated, completely overlooked. Another contender for one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Speed is an awesome Paul song, an awesome Kiss tune in general, and along with Take Me and I Want You are like, as far as I'm concerned, like the three like just holy trinity of Paul tracks on that album.
Mm-hmm. It's a strong song. Again, one of those songs after this album and in the tour, it's not played.
Yeah,
They stick with the formula,
and that's a bit of a shame because I do really think that is a strong Kiss song.
Yeah. Now, next, going into the next one, again, I think we have another really strong Simmons song called "See You in Your Dreams."
Yeah, "See You in Your Dreams" is a cool tune. It's I think the last Gene song on the album, and I think of the 4 Gene songs on the album, it's probably my least favorite of the 4, but not at all because I dislike it, just because the other 3 I like so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think "See You in Your Dreams" is solid Gene song.
Now, it's interesting to note here is I think we should mention it is that during the recording of this song, Gene didn't really like the way Kiss played the song. That's why it ends up showing up again on his solo album just a few years later from here, with a little bit more swagger, I guess Gene was looking for. I prefer this version. That version is really good, but I really like this because Paul Stanley also adds a nice vocal answer on the back end of the song.
Yep.
That's not something that you see a lot in Kiss songs. So it happens in a couple Gene songs, but it's a really good song, really good album.
Yeah, solid tune.
Next, this is where the game changes a little bit. So we need another Peter Criss song. This song, it's actually kind of interesting that it started out as a writing exercise. Paul Stanley wanted to write something similar to what Rod Stewart was doing at the time with Maggie May and You Wear It Well. And it was actually, he wanted to get that over to Rod Stewart's camp until he played it for Eddie Kramer, and Eddie Kramer said, yeah, Peter really needs to sing this song, which caused a little bit of an issue, personal issue in the band. That being said, this is one of those Peter Criss songs that he is identified with like Beth and Black Diamond. It's a big song. It's called Hard Luck Woman. It's actually a very well-written song.
It's I like this song far better than Baby Driver. Personally, that's just me. Hard Luck Woman is one of my favorite Peter Criss songs ever in Kiss, or out of Kiss for all that matter. It's one of my favorite Peter Criss songs. I've always loved Hard Luck Woman. It's actually one of the first, maybe the second song, Kiss song I ever learned how to play on guitar. So it has some special meaning there for me because it's one of the early Kiss songs I ever learned to play myself. And it's a really good song. Like, it's structured really well. The performances are really nice. The 12 string sounds beautiful. Peter's vocal is great. I think it's an all around solid song.
When people, I end up getting into some sort of Kiss debate, and this has happened over the years with, friends or coworkers or whatever. It's like, well, they write crappy songs and they're crappy musicians and this, and that. I would say, okay, well, sit, listen to this song and be objective. And more often than not, it's just, well, you know what? I don't like the band, but this is actually a pretty well crafted song from a songwriting perspective.
Yeah. I mean, Hard Luck Woman is a well structured song. I mean, it's whatever 3.5 minutes or 3:45 or something like that, whatever it is, but it has that nice intro, and then it's got this sort of verse chorus with this turnaround after it, and it's well structured, it's well performed, and it's catchy.
Yeah,
it's a catchy song.
It's kind of weird that now in hindsight that Rod Stewart never sang this song, because it would be a perfect Rod Stewart song.
I mean, honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I could see Rod Stewart singing this.
Mm-hmm.
I could. I mean, and maybe that's not what you want to say about a Kiss song necessarily, but I could see this being a Rod Stewart song and being a hit for him.
Yeah, a big hit.
Yeah,
especially for the time.
I mean, I think Peter does a great job vocally on this song. His performance is solid, and I love it. Love the song.
It is fantastic. And right at the end of this album, last track is a rocker. This one's called Making Love.
Absolutely. And a solid way to end the album, with big bombastic rocker. Mm-hmm. Paul just going off on it, and just another really solid track on the album. And Making Love was always one too that I love to find when it popped up live here or there over the years. It was always a fun track to listen to them do it live. And it was one of those tracks that wasn't in the set list that consistently, I don't think. No. But when it did pop up, it was always interesting to hear them do this one live.
Yeah, well, it becomes a vocal roller coaster is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
This is one of those songs that, especially, like I said, they played it some in the mid 70s. Then it just kind of disappeared through the 90s revenge era of the band. It makes its way back into sets, especially overseas, and it's really, really, really good. But that's essentially what it is it's a way for Paul Stanley to do a Kiss song and just blast out all sorts of crazy vocals.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I mean, the live version of the song is really good too. But this is just one that's supposed to be a fast chugger that's going to be balls to the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great way to cap off just a really, really solid sort of, return to form, if you will, kind of album. Return to, the hard rock roots, straightforward rockers. And that's basically what the album is filled with, with one or two exceptions. It's a straightforward rockers album.
Yeah, it's like I said, this was Kiss's attempt to kind of retreat back safely into their earlier sound. I think they were successful in doing that, because this is a Kiss album. We talked about how their albums sonically were not that great early on. Once Alive, Destroyer starts hitting, especially Destroyer, you have a fantastic sounding album. This album is heavy, kind of in the way that Hotter Than Hell was looking to be, but it's not drowning all these effects. And part of it is they actually recorded it in a theater in New York. I mean, it's basically a live album done in the studio.
And I believe that it was this album where Peter recorded his drums in a bathroom and played with them via video link or whatever to get the right sound that they wanted for the drums.
I think you're right. I think that was Rock and Roll Over.
I believe it was Rock and Roll Over where he did that. And I also want to take a second to also mention the iconic album cover. because this is yet another in a long run of Kiss album covers. And, they have a few later on that I'm going to talk about how much I hate. But
yes,
but in the earlier years, I mean, they had a string for me: Hotter Than Hell, Dress to Kill, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, and as we'll talk about next time with Love Gun. Like, they have a string of awesome album covers, and Rock and Roll Over is no exception. What a cool cover.
Yeah, so they really wanted to capitalize on some of the personality of the individual members. So if you really take a look at the album, start to see the different artwork, look at the backgrounds of the four faces. This is an iconic album cover. Kiss will reuse this image for years and years and years. It's a very popular t-shirt. Also, if you go back and watch the footage for Kiss Unplugged, this is what is covering the stage as they're performing. It's the Rock and Roll Over album cover. It's a great album cover. It's a great album cover for a great album. Brian, where does this album end up falling on your rankings?
It's, this one was a tough one for me, I'll be honest, when I was ranking these, because honestly, I had to put this pretty high because I'm a big fan of this album from start to finish. There was one or two little things that I had to keep it from hitting the top echelon. But for me, out of the 20 core Kiss studio albums, this is going to be number 5 for me.
Yeah. That's a good one. I ranked mine out of the top 35. Mine fell to number 8, 2 spots ahead of Destroyer. I think overall, Destroyer has some big songs, like we talked about God of Thunder, Detroit Rock City. While a lot of these songs, a couple of them go in and out of sets over the years, but for the most part, besides that iconic album cover, this is an album that basically is ignored.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what affected my ranking a little bit, because I'll be honest with you, if I'm going to grab Destroyer or Rock and Roll Over, like, more often than not, I'm probably going to grab Rock and Roll Over.
Yeah.
Because I've heard those songs a little bit less compared to Destroyer. And honestly, I love the whole album from start to finish, but I think what skewed it a little for me is kind of, and I just wanted to touch on it based on what you were saying, is that Destroyer has these iconic Kiss, monster songs: Detroit Rock City, Nighttime World, God of Thunder, Shout It Out Loud. It has these signature tracks that I think, they're so good and so powerful that they elevate the whole album a bit just by their inclusion for me. Whereas,
but at the same time, it's got Great Expectations and Sweet Pain.
Right. That's right. And also it's got Flaming Youth, which I really, really dig. And it's got Do You Love Me, which I really dig. So I think, the trade-off here is that Rock and Roll Over is probably the better album start to finish. But I think is just, and the reason why it's at number 5 for me and Destroyer's at number 2 is I think that Rock and Roll Over is just lacking those signature standout moments that Detroit Rock City and God of Thunder and Shout It Out Loud provide.
Oh, I agree with that. The songs don't have, so you're right, it's missing the big songs, and I think that's why pretty much only Calling Dr. Love had any real consistently being played live down the road.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think the songs are consistently, so while there's no great over-the-top song on the album, every song on this album for me is pretty damn good. And so there's a consistency in the 10 tracks.
And I can't argue that. And I wouldn't argue that. I mean, like I said, for me, my favorite song on the album is probably Take Me. Honorable mention to I Want You and Mr. Speed. But 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 Baby Driver is probably my least favorite song on the album. Being just okay for me. So but overall, start to finish, yeah, I mean it's pretty consistent.
So for me, if I'm going to pick a song that I most likely will listen to on the album, it may end up being Hard Luck Woman or Mr. Speed. But probably my least favorite song on the album, and this will show you exactly how much I love this album. Probably my least favorite track on the album is I Want You. And that's a great song.
It is killer.
So it's just one of those things. It's just, we always see the album cover, we hear Calling Dr. Love, but a lot of times if there is one album in the Kiss catalog that's a sleeper, I gotta say it's this one.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that comment. I mean, Rock and Roll Over, like you pointed out before, I mean, between the juggernauts it's positioned between, Destroyer with the Detroit Rock Cities and the God of Thunders and everything, and the Shout It Out Louds, and then the Love Guns, with everything that album has that we'll talk about next time, to be positioned in between those is, it's a tough place for that album to be, because fans look back on it and they remember, Detroit Rock City and Love Gun and, God of Thunder and everything. But Rock and Roll Over, most of these songs weren't, other than Dr. Love, weren't being played live much. They disappeared from sets. Some of them were never played live. It's like Love 'Em and Leave 'Em was played live once or something on that tour. People didn't even really hear these as much.
Well, I don't have, is there anything that we're missing other than, I know we'll take a look at the average set list for the tour. Detroit Rock City, Take Me, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, Ladies Room, Firehouse, I Want You, Making Love, Cold Gin, Do You Love Me, God of Thunder, Rock and Roll All Night, Shout It Out Loud, Beth, and Black Diamond.
Awesome set list.
That's a great set list.
Awesome set list. I mean, man, they just come out of the gate with that awesome set list. Killer.
And it's going to continue to be a problem. And this is a good problem for a band to have, is what do you end up playing? Because you have a new album coming out within 6 months of the next one. You're constantly having to recycle material. I don't know. There was a lot of arguments about material, but at the end of the day, I know Peter Criss and Ace Frehley would later argue for more material, but as they continue to contribute material, it's like, well, what songs do you start leaving out in order to play Baby Driver?
Right. I mean, and that's a problem that a lot of these big bands that put out a lot of recordings and music have. I mean, look at a band like the Stones, right? I mean, the Stones released, I think it was 780 albums or something.
I think it was roughly that.
Roughly. I mean, don't quote me. I'm estimating, but they've released tens and tens of albums, and they have all these incredible songs that are ingrained in the consciousness of the public, and people, when they go see the Stones, they want to hear Street Fighting Man, they want to hear Brown Sugar, they want to hear Sympathy for the Devil, etc. There's 14 tracks that they have to play
in 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's how much room do they have left for the most recent 8 albums they just put out? And how do they pull material off that? I mean, it's a good problem to have. Overall,
it's a great problem to have.
But it's a problem nonetheless. I mean, how do you pick that?
So let us know what you think about the album. Obviously, we really like this one. Tell us what you think was the strongest song on the album. Where does it rank in your top albums for Kiss? So let us know your thoughts. Please leave a comment. Brian, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, just to say to stay tuned for the next episode, because this train is going to keep rolling with some good stuff, because the next episode is Love Gun, and spoiler alert, it's awesome.
Yes, it is awesome. And pretty soon after that, we're also going to be talking about albums that are not awesome. But it'll be a lot of fun. It's good to have the debate. And that's one of the things that I've liked so far about this video, is you and I disagreeing on Baby Driver, I think makes for an interesting conversation.
And that's gonna, and I think to anybody watching too, like I think you're gonna see, when it comes to Kiss, I think fans tend to find more to agree upon in the makeup era than they do in the non-makeup area.
Try it again and go.
Then fans find to agree upon in the non-makeup era. And I think that, and even again back when they put the makeup back on. So I think my point is, you're going to see as the albums go on and time goes on, there's probably going to be more disparity in our opinions, as things get into particularly in the 80s. So
yeah, I can't wait for that. There's a lot of cool stuff to come. Thank you very much for tuning in. As for us, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Deuce.